everyone, welcome back to On the Fly. Today we're going to take a look at another signing, this time Adam Fox, your reigning Norris Trophy champion. He did sign at $9.5 million over 8 years. So we'll be taking a look at what this sort of does for the cap hit for the New York Rangers as of next year. Obviously they are a contending team, so you are going to start to see a little bit higher contracts and more star players sort of buy into the championship mentality. So we'll be curious to see sort of how they go, especially because there are quite a few players who are in for a payday coming up. Unlike the Leafs, who did sign Riley, they didn't really have anybody super solid, but I will put the link down in the description below for the cap hit review for that video, so you can find that down below. But overall, it is a very good signing, I believe, for the New York Rangers, and I think it is going to help them a lot down the road. So we'll start off by kind of taking a look at what the cap hit total is, especially when it relates to the team, because obviously they do have pretty championship material, I think. Definitely a team that's up and coming, going out and signing Gaudreau. Is definitely a good signing, I think, although it was a little high for my taste, but overall we'll see how that ends up going up. So, starting off with the top line with Kreider, Zibanejad, Gaudreau. Once again, all the assistant captains. So I think that this line is going to be really good. They're all locked in for next year. Valued in about 18.5. So really not bad for a top line. You can't really argue with that. Pretty standard. And then we're going to take a look at the second line with Panarin, Strome, and Kakko. So the issue with this line, of course, as you can see, we have one RFA, we have one UFA, and these two are both in for a massive payday. Kakko, very similar to the Buchnevich deal, I believe, where he did sign about 5.8. So I think it will be somewhat similar for Kakko. And then for Strome, he could be in for quite a payday. Obviously, he is a big part of the Rangers, so I'll be curious to know if he does end up taking a sort of a pay cut for a win now sort of team. But he is in the prime of his career, 28, so I think it will be difficult to try and lock him sort of long-term at a small margin. But we'll be curious to see how that goes down, because obviously Strome is a big part of the New York Rangers, and I think if they can keep him around, the longer the better it will be for them both. Moving on down the list, we have Lafreniere and Cheadle. Nothing too crazy. Obviously, Lafreniere is also going to be in for a payday, not next year, but the year after that. So that is another sort of big red flag for the Rangers. They do have to start saving for that, which might mean that they're going to have to let go of either Strome or maybe Kakko, probably trade him away. They're not going to get a lot for him, but there is a potential for an offer sheet in the restricted free agency. So I do think that they will entertain that if it comes down to it, but I think they would trade him away first. And of course, moving on to the fourth line, we have Hunt, McKay, Rooney. So really nothing too crazy here. Obviously, two UFAs. They'll both be league men if they do decide to come back. And then I think from how they've been playing recently, I think without a doubt, it does make a lot of sense to bring them back. But overall, I think it's a pretty solid forward group. A lot of relatively easy re-signs, and then sort of those two red flags in Strome and Kakko will really be what comes down for the New York Rangers. Looking on to the defense, Lindgren and Fox. So with them, $12.5 million between the both of them. Obviously, Fox did get the big re-sign. So whether or not that sort of takes a toll, once again, remains to be seen. Depends on how they can manage their contracts. Especially because I do worry about what Lafreniere brings, especially when he gets the option to sort of negotiate on a higher term. Obviously, you are locked in as a rookie contract for low value, but you do have a lot of performance bonuses with it. So I am looking forward to see what happens once Lafreniere is now allowed to take massive salaries. Obviously, he was by far the top player in the draft, in his draft class. So I am curious to know how this ends up going, and I think it will be very curious to see Fox signing. Moving on with Miller and Trouba. Trouba, obviously, assistant captain, $8 million. Another one of these players where he is a very solid player in all respects, but you do have to take note that at $8 million, and you already have one of them at the same position on the right side, you do have to wonder how much longer Trouba will be in a Rangers uniform, and I do think he will be sort of the first to go in terms of trading, and I think it really makes the most sense for the New York Rangers to get rid of him at that point. Finally, sort of the bottom of the list, sort of their sixth defenseman, Tinordi, Nemeth, and then you got Hayek and Lundqvist. So I don't think these guys are going to be terribly important in terms of the New York Rangers' success, and I think it's really just replaceable guys. But they will keep probably all the guys that they have signed. Hayek, I am looking forward to see how they deal with him. He's sort of been up and down this year in terms of the waiver wire, so I am very interested to see whether or not he will be re-signed and how high he'll be re-signed, because he does have potential with another team. He is a young guy, sort of an up-and-coming prospect to some respect, and I am looking forward to see what they end up doing with him. Moving on down the list, Shesterkin and Georgiev. So Georgiev is a restricted free agent, so once again, whether or not he wants to take a big contract, obviously he could, and I think he does have starting goaltender capabilities. I'm not sure with the Rangers he'd have that, so if he is signing with the Rangers, it would be a little bit smaller on the price point, and probably smaller on the term, just so he can get out of restricted and go into the unrestricted free agency and really start to explore his options there. So overall, this does bring us to a grand total in terms of salary cap hit at $67,438,691. And they also have $3 million, roughly $3.5 million in dead cap just through buyouts. So that is one thing that they do have to worry about. Obviously, when you have $3 million for the upcoming year, it is tough, especially when you're trying to work around a contending team, and that does put them at a grand total of $70 million, 78 if you're really taking a real hard look at it. And then 16 of their 24 players are signed, so they do need 8 slots. But once again, pretty much 3 of those slots are going to be high value guys. And when you have $11 million to spend, it is going to be very tough to try and re-sign all these guys. And you are going to have to try and buy into that whole team dynamic, taking a lower price now and trying to win. I would be curious to see how many guys do that. Obviously, they haven't had great success with some of the Russian players, especially in New York, with taking sort of lower contracts now. That is one of their big struggle points, and that's why they lose a lot of guys. But overall, I think it is going to be very interesting to see what they end up doing with Kakko, what they end up doing with Strome, what they end up doing with Georgiev, because obviously with the big signing of Adam Fox, I am very interested to see how much further they can go without blowing up their whole team, losing Trouba. And I think they can keep Trouba, the longer the better, but I think he will be the first to go if there is a move to be made. If you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. If you'd like to drop a like, if you really like to consider subscribing, tell all your friends to leave a comment down below your thoughts on the signing. Until next time, see ya.